Welcome to the Todd DeVoe Show, exploring the best ideas and lessons for leaders.
Good morning, good afternoon, depending on where you are at in this fine world. And today we're going to talk about making a difference and what does it mean to make a difference in your profession. And we have people, we talked about this, before, and Wall Street Journal even put a whole article out back in 2020 talking about the non-essential worker and what does that mean. And it really kind of gave a lot of people time to reflect and be perplexed a little bit on what does it mean to be a worker. You hear these things, ideas of quiet quitting, if you will, the great resignation, all these things. And it seems to be, it's like this individualistic thing. You're kind of going, oh, how's it impacting me? Right. I'm going to push back a little bit today, and we're going to bring in Josh Clifford here. Clifford's who's done something different, but I'm going to push back a little bit here. What are you doing to make a difference in your profession, or what are you doing a difference to make a difference in this world? And Josh Clifford has done this. Josh, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me, Todd. Super excited to be here today.
So, I know I'm prefacing this conversation we're going to have, and we'll get into deeper into really what you're doing, but it really is the idea of making the difference in the world. And, before we started, we're talking the green room, and you really had a decision-making point in your life where you said, I could be selfish, if you will, right, and go do this great adventure, or you made a decision not to be. So let's talk about that decision-making point that you were at. You're on a worldwide trip, and then something changed. What was that?
Yeah, so for my 30th birthday, I was on a trip around the world, and I was about a quarter of the way through with that trip. I was in Rome for a few minutes, and I met a couple of brothers who were refugees from Nigeria, and their story was so sad. I canceled my trip around the world and made a nonprofit organization to help refugees in Europe. And after we helped thousands of people, we kept hearing, regardless of the country they're from, the same story over and over again. I'm leaving my country because we don't have water or food. A few of them said medicine. And so we created a new type of business model, and here we are today.
That's amazing. And as a young guy doing that, that's even it's really telling of your attitude towards life. I watched a movie the other day just to kind of called Swimmers. It's on Netflix. If you guys have not seen it, have the opportunity to do so. It's a true story about two sisters who escaped the Syrian civil war, and one of them ended up swimming in the Olympics, and I think she got a gold, if I remember correctly. And it is people from all over the world are suffering in various different ways, and water is definitely one of the big ones. And the reason why I bring this up is during the movie Swimmers, there was a part where they were dying to drink water, and they finally found like this water source. They were drinking it, and then they juxtaposed this by, as they're walking through the town, and one of the storekeepers is washing their floor off with a hose, and these people just came from the ocean and starving for water. Why did water become your let's introduce it. Actually, let's go back a little bit. So Josh is a company. It's called Free Water, right? I found them, I don't know, some ad or something. I don't know realistically how I came across you guys, but the concept really blew my mind. Instead of buying $1 or $2 or $3, or gosh, I was at a sporting event where I paid $5 for a bottle of water. Josh's idea is to give water away for free, but paid for it with the advertisement on the bottles. And that's what's kind of a cool concept. How did water become such an important issue for you?
Well, it was the main thing I kept hearing from all these refugees, regardless whether they were from Africa, Asia, wherever they were from. We didn't have water. And in the United States, water has the highest markup of any product. If you spend $1 on even the crappiest bottle of water, you spent 2,000 times the price the manufacturer paid for it. So that would be the equivalent of spending $2 million on an iPhone. You would never, who could afford $2 million on an iPhone? But every time you spend $1 on a water, you did the equivalent markup. But like you said, a lot of bottles are $2, $3, $4. And the powers to be only want that price to go up, and we're making it free for everybody.
And so not only are you making it free though, right? Because the other day I was watching a congressional hearing where they're talking about plastics, And in the United States, even though we're doing a better job than the rest of the world, realistically, on keeping plastics out of the ocean, we still have an issue, right? Like, I think if you take a look at the world's pollution, the United States is presenting like less than 1% of the plastics into the ocean, but it's still less. That's still 1% more than we should be putting into the ocean. You went with a recyclable bottle that can be not just recycled but also reused, correct?
Yeah, well, today we offer free water. It's free spring water and paper cartons and aluminum bottles. We didn't want to make water free and do it in a plastic bottle. Only 9% of plastic is recycled, regardless if it's a bottle or whatever it is. And that number is only going down. And so we wanted to do things differently, and people appreciate that.
Yeah, absolutely, and I think I like that as well. And who doesn't want to help out with that side of the equation? Plastics are you're talking about that whole plastic ocean out, or an ocean land mass, if you will, out in the middle of the ocean that's bigger than the size of Texas, where you're out of, and that kind of lets you know like how much trash is actually floating around in the ocean. And so not only are you helping with water, but you're also helping reduce that impact on the environment as well. I appreciate that. Um, so when you're making a decision to do something different, like you sit back, and this is one of the things I challenged my people who I mentor. I'm a college professor as well, and my students, to really make a difference, not to sit back and say, hey, I sound like a JFK right now, you know not don't, what can your company do for you, what can you do for your company? But I really think that, like, if not what your profession can do for you, right, but what do you do to make a difference in the world? What do you do to make a difference in your profession? And I think that's critical. And you making that decision to make a difference, and creating a company for free water, and using advertising to pay for it instead of somebody's dollar. How do you talk to others into your organization or other organizations into making a difference into the world, into the community, and into their profession?
I guess it depends who you're talking to, because different, like a potential advertiser or a partner or an investor, they all have different things. You have to go at it differently, right? And just because we didn't mention on the show, free water is just the first product of our future free supermarkets here in the USA. We're launching free beer and free tampons out of the state of Texas next, and each of those will also donate to different charitable causes. And so it's not water. We call this an Amazon 2.0. Jeff Bezos used books to start Amazon, and once he had the books going to your house, then they added the CD-ROM and the clothing, and 25 years later, here's the Amazon we know today. And so our first product's free water. We have a big why here. 50 million people die every year around the world because they don't have water, food, or medicine. 50 million. But here in the US, we're also the biggest food wasters in the world. 30% of all groceries go straight from the supermarket shelf and into the trash because it's too expensive. And so free supermarkets across the US cuts USA food waste by 30%, which is a massive amount. When you have a why like that, to end global famine and to help the environment and local communities, it's really easy or it's much easier to find advertisers, to find teammates, to find investors. And it's also how we were able to amass more than 800,000 social media followers in a little over a year.
Wow, it's amazing. When you're looking at this, and I want to kind of, one of the things I teach obviously is public policy and emergency management. You know, um, how do you see like free water fitting into the disaster? Because I mean, like, you're in Texas. Every year there's going to be a hurricane that comes through. That does, I shouldn't say every year, but the potential that does significant damage. Tornadoes in the area as well. Can free water help with disaster preparedness and disaster response?
Yeah, 100%. So the greatest advantage to our platform is typically brands use their real estate to brand themselves. And that's very limiting. We use our real estate to brand others. And so we've got two use cases. We've got marketing, and then we've got communication. And humanitarian disaster relief, government workings, that all falls into the communication umbrella. And so in the future, when there's some sort of, tornado or hurricane or, whatever, you're not going to hand them a bottle of Dasani or Evian or Aquafina. You're going to print the life-saving information on the box or on the bottle. It's going to say, hey, this is where the hospital is. These are the times. This is where food drops are. This is how you apply a tourniquet. This is how you purify water. Scan these QR codes to get the latest info from the government. Scan those QR codes to give the government the info they don't know. And so typically in disaster relief, the first thing you hand them anyways is something to drink.
Right.
And so you couple that with the life-saving information right in front of them. And then they have that, they could take it with them. Usually comms go down too. Like there's no communication at the beginning of a disaster. That's one of the first things they prop up. But by giving them the physical literature in their hand, you could get it into everyone's hands because everyone drinks water. Later on, when the comms get back up, then you could add that communication back and forth. Hey, scan this QR code to get all of your updates. It could say, scan it at 3 p.m., 6 p.m., 9 p.m., 8 a.m., whatever. So when you get that live broadcast, but then anytime scan this over here and give us the information we don't know. Hey, I'm lost and I'm over here. Or, hey, you guys don't understand. There's a fire that broke out over here. No one's putting it out. And so it's communication in a different form.
So water being one of the critical life things that we need, right? That's the part of the threes. You can live, 3 days and without water, and then you're going to die. Right. So obviously getting into the hands of the people that need it, but then having the extra information on there, that is a critical step. That is an amazing idea. Who have you worked with to do this, or are you still kind of looking for partners?
So on the emergency setting, we have not done it yet. We've talked to the Texas National Guard. I've also we've got a lot of DoD use cases too. So we've mentioned these things to the DoD as well. But in the best of ways, the 14 people in our startup, we are overwhelmed with the traffic we're getting from our website. Last 30 days, we had 190 plus thousand people visit our website. And a lot of those people are messaging and emailing us. So we do our best to get back to everybody. We've got to kind of double, triple, quadruple our team right now. And one of those or two of those members would then focus simply on the disaster relief, humanitarian aid, and DoD use cases. Same thing in the pandemic. If we were in business when the pandemic started, we would have sold billions to the CDC. They would have said social distance, wash your hands. Scan this if you get sick, track the virus in your neighborhood. There's an infinite number of use cases when you need them.
So I have to ask the question, the elephant in the room, and there's big companies out there that produce water, right? They ship it to people's homes all day long, and they're making, we talked about it earlier. I paid $5 for a bottle of water at a sporting event. How is that? I mean, like, have they reached out to you? Are they looking at you, or do they feel that you're a threat to their business model?
People ask this all the time, and people always tell us, you better watch out. Nestle's going to get you. Like I hear that every day on social media. Here's the thing. I created this company to have a different outcome. In the past, all I cared about was making money. You launch a company, the only measurement of success was making money.
Right.
With this, it's different. So I gave myself numerous ways to win. And when I created this, I was like, the worst case scenario, we're going to make such a compelling case that the world's biggest companies squash us like a bug, and they open a better free supermarket that donates more money to charity than us. If that happens, we save 50 million lives a year in the environment. And so that's not a bad worst case scenario, but we will be the next Google simply because they can't compete with us. Their greatest advantages are their biggest disadvantages. And so they definitely know who we are. Everything we do is open source. So I always tell everyone, hey, if you work at Coke, you work at Pepsi, you work at Amazon, call us. We could help you 100x your money, and you'll be the good guy. And we're going to help you. There's no secrets here. We're ending global famine. So there's no competition in that. So I don't look at them as competition. I look at them as future partners and advertisers and allies and helping to save lives. Maybe they look at us as, holy crap, they're they're disrupting our model. What are we going to do? But what can you do about that?
And I think disruption is great and what's needed because that creates innovation, and I think today when we take a look at, some of the disruptors that are now, like the Amazon, they're a huge disruptor. You have Elon Musk, with SpaceX, who just really reinvigorated, space travel and things like that. So it's a great position to be in, to be able to push those buttons and to be that disruptor. Um, what's the future of free water? Where do you see, like, in 10 years from now?
So we have plans to launch free beer next year, just in the state of Texas at a limited capacity, closed events and bars and so on and so forth. For South by Southwest, which is in March, it's one of the biggest tech expos in the States. We're unveiling our first free vending machine prototype. And free vending machines are going to change the way the world works. And there's a lot of tech that goes into that. And eventually we'll get into manufacturing and so on and so forth. And so you'll ultimately get free products from us three ways in no particular order: from a free vending machine, from your local supermarket. And the reason why Ralph's or Whole Foods or wherever you shop in California will carry our free products is the right locations will earn more money distributing our free products than they can selling other groceries. And then finally, the final frontier is direct to your doorstep. And when you open those free 24 packs in the future that were delivered to your home for free, you're going to open it, and every single box or bottle is going to be uniquely designed just for your household. And then once we've got the free water going to your doorstep, we add the free beer, the free soda, the free clothing, the free computers. We've got a process that makes every product that Amazon sends to your house will be available for free in the future. And so it'll be just one product at a time. And 20 years later, bam, we're that free Amazon.
That is an amazing goal, and I can see just how you can really make a difference in the world by doing that, and also, uh, you know, especially people that are in need. I mean, there's those of us that that have great jobs and whatnot, but there's then we have the other half of the nation that's struggling every day just to put food on their table, and yeah, and I think that's, I don't know about half, but we have a good percentage of people that are struggling to put food on the table, and that. Um, you know, I want to kind of go back under the professional side of the thing, right? And what you're doing. How are you developing the people that are working for you? Like who comes to work, who would want to work for you?
In any early stage startup, you tend to have an equity component. And so everyone involved in the company now is working for equity. That's not for everybody. And so you have to be in a life situation where you're financially stable and willing to do that. Half of our team and half of our investors came from TikTok. And so people saw what we were doing and they moved from other states and joined the company. And so everybody involved believes that water, food, and medicine should be free, eco-friendly, available to everyone. And hey, it doesn't hurt that this is extremely lucrative in the future too. And so, but it's people who care. It's people who are unsatisfied with the way things are working today.
Which goes back to my original idea of this conversation. It's not just about what your profession can do for you. It's what can you do for the profession, and really looking and seeking ways to make a difference. Because I I I would say, talking to my students, generational speaking, I come from Gen X, right? And we have one idea of what things are supposed to be, what we're brought up. But as a guy who's involved with youth, youth sounds like they're youth, with young professionals, I see where what's driving today's young professionals. And I have one of my mentees, I guess, if you will. She went and with a couple other people created an organization, specifically to get new people that are coming to the profession kind of hooked up with each other, mentoring, coaching, doing that, getting them into different positions. And I really see somebody who's in the field of emergency management, community planning, disaster response in that area, really working hand in hand with free water, because I think the missions are very parallel to being able to bring supplies to those that are in need. Do you see it as that way as well?
100%. And yeah, like you call it the great resignation or whatever's going on. A lot of people, regardless of their age, don't want to work for the evil empire anymore. And they want, I mean, listen, what does everyone ideally want? People want meaning and they want to make a living. A lot of people who work at Facebook or a lot of these tech companies, they got all the perks, the basketball courts and the gyms and the saunas at work, but those perks are to mask that, hey, you might not be doing something that's so positive for the world. And so a lot of people have been reaching out and they're extremely excited about what we're doing. And in general, we just see people that want more out of their life. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
Yeah, and those perks come with 16, 18-hour days too, and expected to be on call when the phone rings to come into work. So, you know, I kind of want to talk about perks. I think it's funny. This just popped in my head that when the shutdown and the lockdown went down, or whatever term you want to use, when people could not go to work, um, the people that were working for Facebook um, were like, "Hey, I don't have food at my house," because they were so used to being at Facebook and getting food. And a couple of them were like, "I'm not really sure how to get how to get how to get food." And I read that article, and I think it was in Wall Street Journal or it was in Forbes or something like that, and it kind of made me laugh a little bit because they're so used to having that provided for them that they weren't sure what to do. And I think that's the other side of it too, is something an organization like what you're doing can teach people how to really shop again and to buy food properly and to, I mean, to eat healthy again. And that's one of my goals in life. As you can tell, I'm a little bit on the rotund side of life. I'm an old dude, put it many miles on, and but eating healthy is one of my wife's goals for me for sure. She's on top of me on it. But I think we forgot how to do all that kind of stuff, and having those type of things on that bottle to pull people through, I think is an interesting idea.
I mean, yeah, you could print anything, so there's an infinite number of ways you could decorate the packaging, and that's what's important. And on the topic of food, a lot of people could only afford junk food. They could only afford the dollar menu at a Burger King or McDonald's or whatever. And so giving people access to higher quality foods that are organic and healthy is the future, right? It's not just the future for people being healthy, it's the future for lowering the costs that the government's paying when people get sick. And if you're just eating Whoppers or Big Macs, you will eventually get sick. And that's just the truth that we don't want to be the 99-cent store of free stuff, even though I love the 99-cent store. We're the Whole Foods of free, or negatively priced, because the most unique thing about our products is, as far as we know, we're the world's first negatively priced goods that are profitable because it's free. It donates to charity, and we still make money. So today it's 110% off, and that discount's only going to go more negative as we grow. And so we technically pay you to drink free water. And in the near future, if you do believe in self-driving cars, if you do believe in artificial intelligence, automation, most of us are going to be out of the job, and including my wife, who's a software engineer. And is the US government going to give us a universal basic income in the future? I would say probably not. And
Right.
so free supermarkets, free groceries, free computers, free everything, it's going to become more and more important as time goes on.
So, but and just to kind of clarify this, because just kind of popped up in my head, it's not necessarily the items aren't free to produce, but they're being supplanted not by the government. They're being so the costs are being augmented by the advertisers, right? Yeah.
Yeah, so it's not communism. There's still money changing hands here. It's just, instead of the money coming from the consumer, it comes from the advertisers. It could be the government if it was, a government use of the products, obviously. But there's an interesting phenomenon. The cost of manufacturing goods is only going down, and the cost of advertising is only going up. And we live in a world where everybody happens to have a phone in their pocket with more computing power than when we originally put people on the moon. And so it's just that interesting time in history where it works. But in the 90s, we had free newspapers, we had free magazines. You had the missing people on the milk cartons for 70 years. And so this could have happened on many products 50, 60, 70 years ago. It's just counterintuitive, but it's the same business model that made the porn industry free, YouTube free, Google free, Facebook free, TikTok free, video games like Fortnite are free. And it's just the same thing, just in the physical world.
Right. No, absolutely. And it does makes 100%, and we're used to it, right? I mean, when I say used to it, there are things that I think that if we would start charging for them would shock the conscious, right? Like if somebody came over to you and said, "Hey, we're going to charge you, I don't know, $30 a year, to be on Facebook," people would, what? I'm not going to pay to be on Facebook, right? But they're okay having the free ad or the ads come through on their Facebook feed, which realistically, as you're right, is kind of targeted towards the user through the algorithm and whatnot. And so I think that people do have that concept. It's just moving it from the digital world to the physical world is something that's new and exciting. And I really do, wish that you guys are going to be super successful. And that being said, how can people find you, Josh?
You could add me on LinkedIn. My name's Josh Cliffords. You could follow our journey on social media on YouTube, TikTok, Instagram. It's Free Water, or go to our website at freewater.io.
Absolutely. And Josh, thank you so much for spending time with me this morning. I'm looking forward to it. And you know what? I think that I'm going to reach out to you. We'll work together and let's get Free Water to come to one of the next conferences that we have for emergency management, and we'll have you guys highlighted there.
Oh, we would love to. That'd be amazing.
All right, Josh, thank you so much, and we'll talk to you a little bit. Hey, everybody, thank you for spending time with me this morning. I think having an idea of how to make a difference in your profession, like Josh has done, is critical. When we take a look at what do we do for a living, I think it's important. I also want to thank our sponsors today, D-Land for Buffalo Computer Graphics. Thank you so much for all the support that you show for the show, for what we do, and also for Disaster Tech, for all of your needs right there, for helping people really plan for and respond to disasters. Thank you for both of you guys for responding. And until next time, everyone, I hope you guys have a wonderful, safe day. And as always, stay safe, and especially for after this show, stay hydrated.